So we're going to make monkey bread, and to start off we're going to make some dough, and it's bread dough, and it's basically what you would use to make cinnamon rolls. Monkey bread is kind of like making cheater cinnamon rolls. So we'll start off by getting some warm water. From the tap I'm getting some water it's pretty hot, but as soon as I put it in the mixer, it will cool down pretty quickly. So you really want it to be about lukewarm, kind of bath water warm, or a little bit cooler. You want 2 3/4 cups of water. And we'll put that in the mixer. And I'm using some rapid rise yeast. Normally, the regular yeast will cause your dough to rise in about 2 hours, and this tends to get it to rise in about an hour. Can you zoom in on this? So I'm going to mix the yeast, kind of spread it out a little bit inside the mixer, and I'm going to sprinkle in some sugar. It's 1/3 cup of sugar. So the yeast will eat the sugar and then produce carbon dioxide bubbles, and that's what causes the bread to rise. Now, if it's fairly new yeast, you probably don't need to wait and see if it's active or not. You can just start mixing in your flour. But if you have some yeast that's been around a while, you might want to wait and see if you see bubbles. And if you see the bubbles, then that means the yeast is doing its job. If you don't see bubbles after 5 or 10 minutes, then it's probably not active yeast, and you'll need to get more yeast and start over. It's a good time to start over though, because you haven't really wasted a lot of resources. So I've got 7 cups of flour here, and I'm going to dump in 7 cups of flour gradually. And you can see it's still pretty wet. So I'm going to stop for a moment, and you can notice, like on the inside and on the sides of the bowl, it's kind of sticking to the sides of the bowl a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to keep mixing this, and we'll add some butter and mix it until it really doesn't stick to the side of the bowl anymore. So sometimes in bread making they say mix it until it cleans the bowl, and so we'll show you what that means. Add 1/3 cup of butter. So you notice that the bowl looks fairly clean inside, and that's kind of where you want to be when you're when it's mixed and sort of ready to pull out and rise. But I'm going to mix this a little bit more, and we're going to break down the wheat gluten, and that will cause it to be a little bit more sticky, and that stickiness helps it rise better. It helps the carbon dioxide stay inside. So I'm just going to go for a little while longer. Okay, so if you look at the dough, it's pretty much all in one big lump, and the sides of the bowl are really clean, and the dough will just kind of come out as one nice lump of dough, and it's pretty easy to grab out of the bowl. Now I'm using a Bosch. Notice how soft and just kind of nice that is to sort of play with a little bit. This is a nice ball of dough that's kind of the consistency you want. A little stretchy, soft, feels nice on your hands. Now, if this were a KitchenAid mixer, you would have this ball would be attached to this dough hook, and it would just be spinning around, and it would be cleaning the bowl on the sides as well. So it would probably take about twice as long on a KitchenAid mixer, and you find yourself kind of pushing down. I'm using a Bosch. It's a little bit more of a powerful mixer, and if you do have a Bosch mixer, you probably want to get this dough hook extender piece. Get it around so you can see it. Yeah, this piece right here, it's a dough hook extender, and it helps kind of clean the insides for smaller batches. So what we're going to do is take this ball of dough, put it in a buttered bowl, and then we're going to take some hot water, put it over, run a towel through this hot water, kind of soak it. And this is about as hot as I can stand it. Squeeze it out, leave enough water in there to create a nice moist environment. We're going to cover up this dough. What that does is it encourages the yeast to do its thing, and the dough will rise. It will take probably about an hour or so for this dough to rise, and we'll come back then. So now that our dough has risen, you can see it's this nice, beautiful ball of dough. and it's about twice as big as it was before. So that's kind of what we're looking for. We're waiting for it to be twice as big. Now I'm going to preheat the oven to 350 at this point. We get that going, and then we can work on the dough. Punch it down, and it'll just rise again. Meanwhile, I've got about 2.5 cups of sugar, probably a little bit more, and 3 whole cubes of butter. And I'm just going to make a mixture. Oh, and there's also 3 tablespoons of cinnamon in there. Oops. That's what aprons are for. I'm just going to create a little assembly line here. I'm wearing gloves because I'm going to get my hands all into this butter mixture, and it's just a lot easier to clean up. I'm just going to take little pieces of dough and put them in there, and then put them in the pan. This is kind of a larger pan, it's a 9 by 13. But if I just take off little pieces, now you could roll them into balls, but if you do, you're not going to have the surface area coverage, so you might as well just take all the little pieces of dough, and it doesn't have to be pretty. We're just going to break them all up into little pieces, mix them, and put them in our pan. We're just going to do this over and over again. Until we've turned all the dough into little pieces. This dough is really soft. And see how it stretches? It doesn't just fall apart. It's not like cookie dough. You can use the same dough recipe, by the way, to make bread. I mentioned cinnamon rolls before. If you want to make bread with it, you can mix it with half wheat flour. I mean, like, not white flour, but whole wheat flour. There's no special technique, I'm just tearing it all apart, trying to get it into chunks. And these chunks will turn into nice fluffy pieces of bread that are surrounded by butter, cinnamon, and sugar. Essentially, they'll taste like pieces of cinnamon roll. Now don't worry if at this point it sort of seems like we're running out of sauce, because there's plenty of sauce in here for all this. We'll just mix it up some more in the pan. The smaller you chunk off these pieces, the smaller your pieces of bread will be. And that just means more surface area to get some of the good stuff in between. So you really want a lot of butter and cinnamon and sugar floating around in between the pieces of the bread. So I use baker's sugar for my sauce, and the reason I use the baker's sugar is because it's a finer granulated sugar. It's not like powdered sugar, and it's not like granulated sugar. They're really small granules. I think that's the word for it. And it creates a smoother texture. So there's my oven telling me it's ready to go. Yeah, so the baker's sugar creates this finer, instead of having like crunchy sugar texture that comes from the regular granulated sugar, which have larger pieces, you get a little bit of a smoother texture. Almost done. Put the last of the dough in here. Kind of stir it up. Mix it. There's just about the right amount left. So I'm going to just kind of massage it a little bit and make sure that there's enough butter and cinnamon and sugar for all of our little pieces of dough. Doesn't have to look pretty. Now I'm just going to kind of pat it down, make it flat. Or kind of flat. And you'll notice there's all that butter and cinnamon and sugar that's in between all these layers. This is going to puff up, get a little bit taller than the top of the pan as it rises in the oven. Before I put it in the oven, I'm going to sprinkle some more of the baker's sugar over the top. It gives it kind of a crisp, kind of a sweet, crispy coating. And a little bit of cinnamon. Just to make sure that top layer has a sweet, cinnamony coating. And in the oven it goes for 45 minutes or 35 minutes. Okay, so they're done. Or the monkey bread is done. Take a look at that. See how it went up over the top there? Take it out. And we want to check it to make sure it's not too doughy. Also also gives us an excuse to try it really quickly. Go right in the middle and pull it out and see how that looks like. Nice bread, kind of soft, kind of tears apart a little bit. So it's not like dough. I'm going to give it a try. Oh yeah. And it's done. That's monkey bread. Cut.